Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to go and do our commodity daily technical analysis update. We'll take a look at the charts. We're going to look at the dollar, yields, precious metals, and then the commodities and ETFs that I follow. We're going to give you my financial opinions on it. If you guys need help with anything else, definitely check out finding-value.com. We do look at a lot of commodities and stock market. We also look at technology. There just isn't great opportunities there at this time, and it's mainly commodity related. So let's dive in here. Let's take a look at what's going on. We've got the DXY here, the dollar relative strength indicator is what I like to call it. So we are higher today, 0.57%. Nice little move. We've got a little battle going on between buyers and sellers right at this top. And the dollar is a little bit confused. You can see we've got a little bit of resistance coming through here, coming through that area. And are we going to break to the upside or are we going to come back down? We've got a strong drive out of this beginning of these large green candlesticks. It's a lot of buying pressure to push this higher. So the momentum is still higher, but there is some selling pressure creeping in the markets here these 2 days. But the buyers are answering back. So usually in this type of scenario, we have to wait and see which way it breaks. But what does this tell us? It just tells us that the dollar relative to other currencies is either stronger or weaker. Generally speaking, when we see a lot of these types of market moves, we see the DXY drop. And I do think that will come eventually, but I don't know what it's going to do here in the short term. Looking at yields, yields continue to strengthen, and strengthening yields generally correlate well with a strengthening dollar. And we're up about 2% today. So yields have broken out of this consolidation range and have been moving on up. I don't see any reversal candlesticks or anything like that, so I think it's going to continue higher for yields on the 10-year yield. The 30-year yield continues higher as well. That is also broken out of a pattern, and it has momentum moving on higher. So we could see higher yields in the short term. Bond prices conversely move lower when yields go up. And that's what we're seeing is bond prices are continuing to go down with yields moving higher. And I think the general consensus is that bond prices would go higher and yields would go lower. That is not what we have seen here in the past few weeks. Looking at the TYX-TNX ratio, and the reason I look at this is just telling us if the curve is inverting or normalizing. So looking at this is continuing to invert, which means that the TNX is going up at a faster pace than TYX. So we're continuing to invert the curve. That curve inverting generally means that we're still in an inflationary type of environment. And that's what the markets have been telling us. That's what this tells us. A lot of the times, precious metals don't like the curve inverting. They like it when it's normalizing and when things are weakening in the system. So this is potentially a headwind to precious metals in the short term. The CRB index, we're right on this kind of maybe breakout area. I redrew this. We're still in this gigantic, this gigantic pattern that we're scribing out. And we're right at that area where we're just getting a little bit of a sell-off. I call it the bloody nose, continuation, move higher. The CRB to S&P 500, we have broken that downtrend channel to the upside. Everything looks good for a potential move or grind higher over time. A lot of the times these break out and they like to do a little retest before moving higher. So don't forget the retest move where we could pull back for a little bit before moving on up. And this is very sensitive to yields. I think an inverted yield curve is beneficial for commodities. The S&P 500 does not like rising interest rates. Gold just flat today. It does. Which way is this thing going to go? I mean, we've got selling pressure coming down, momentum. Sometimes this hits like a brick wall and then it comes back down again, like an A, B, C correction. But we'll see what brings what has in store for us the next trading day, which is tomorrow. If we get a big green candlestick, I would say we're going higher. If we sell off and we get a big down candlestick, then I think we're going to go lower. And that momentum will continue. Silver, we've got slightly lower down day today, 0.44%, but we've got stronger selling pressure leading into this, and a lot of the times they like to kind of roll over. So I would say this could potentially roll over in the short term and head a little bit lower before moving on up. So sideways to lower is what I'm thinking for silver. Platinum moving on up. It's looking fantastic. Surprising that it shot higher here in the short term, but it's looking fantastic for a potential move on up. So that's good. We've got the XEU to gold ratio basically flat today, 0.05% higher. We've got GDX basically flat, still looks all right. Nothing really to report different there. SILJ also looking good. Just a small little down day, and that could continue higher over time. Crude oil, 0.32%. And I do think eventually this will work its way on up, but we got to break through some resistance. The spot that I'm looking at is this resistance line here at about $82. So we break above 82, that's where I want to see it break. So that's kind of where the line in the sand is for me. Natural gas, we're going to be bouncing around, I think, a little bit. We can see that the opening and closing prices are really small down here with these small candlesticks. A lot of the times that means we're going to get some equal buying and selling pressure, so we'll probably bounce around a little bit. XOP, yeah, you know me, heading higher. Not too bad of a candlestick. Let's look at kind of drawing this. Looks like that's broken to the upside. I think we could see further upside in XOP. We're also in a larger consolidation pattern here that we've been chopping sideways in. And I think when we break out of this, it's going to be a lot of fun. OIH, another one that's looking very strong today. Nice strong move higher today. Nice, pretty strong finish. We want to close above 330, get above that, clear out of this zone. And then we've got a lot of upside potential if we want to get running here. So I think OIH, I mean, this looks really good. If you throw a log pattern on it, it's kind of like an inverted head and shoulders. I've seen inverted head and shoulders in a lot of the energy service companies, so it makes sense that this would have one too. But this looks really good. And if we can get some momentum behind us, this could be a real burner here. The Sprott Physical Uranium Trust, slightly lower today. We're right below that resistance line. Are we going to break it? One thing I do see is we've got strong selling pressure here, and we're kind of struggling to fight our way back up. So I do think this could potentially roll over and come back down in the short term. URNM, also just moving sideways. I don't like seeing these large selling pressure little bouts here. And I don't see any big buying pressure candlesticks on this side here. So I'm waiting for the Green Army to show up and show us that they're there. I don't think we're going to crash. I just think we're squeezing up into the corner, and the Green Army hasn't shown up yet. So someone call the Green Army, please show up. That's what we need to show up, the Green Army, which is the big green candlesticks, the big buying pressure force, and break us out of this consolidation period. We've got TAN. TAN also just moving sideways, squeezing like a beast. There it is, squeezing on up, and then eventually we'll get a break. Are we going to break down to a false break out and break higher, or is it just going to break to the upside? I don't know the path, but I can tell you we're squeezing up, and it's getting close to a break. COPX, just a slightly down day today. It's not a reversal candlestick. Not really much to report there. Looking at lithium, we're right on support, and that support will probably hold. We'll see. Big picture view on lithium. I mean, it's a battle here, guys. We've got buyers and sellers duking it out back and forth. Well, we'll see where it goes. I'm cautiously optimistic that this could go higher based off of this bullish candlestick and the smaller selling pressure back to support. REMX also right on support. There we go with the little hammer candlestick. It's doing a little bit of a hammer time with a gap down, and then a little bit of buying pressure right on support. So hopefully we can get the buyers to come in here and push it on higher. S&P 500 is looking good to move up. That's a bullish engulfing. Looks like it wants to go higher. That is a little bit confusing with the higher yields that we're getting. and higher dollar. Maybe it's fed up and just wants to run. This is at support. That's a bullish engulfing. That is a signal of reversal pattern to move higher. So that also looks good. So the NASDAQ and S&P 500 look good to go on up. Hopefully that sparks some movement in uranium to the upside as well. EEM, bullish engulfing. Looks like it wants to go higher. I really like emerging markets here. This looks really good. This is one that I really do like, and it's looking better and better. XHB also looking better to move up. Another bullish engulfing right on support. That is where I like to buy stuff, is in that general location right where it's at. Moo is, I saw the fertilizer stocks today. They were looking very tasty. We talked about that on the website on the midweek update. We got our good companies, and surprisingly, every single one of those companies was up 4 or 5% today. So that's pretty cool. But Moo looks really good to move on higher. So we're getting a confluence of events between NASDAQ, S&P, fertilizer companies, and a squeeze amongst a whole bunch of different companies. Home builders are looking good. Things are really squeezing up here. So we could see a big move. And this is all in the face of increasing dollar and yields. So we've got copper, a little bit more selling pressure today. This thing is battling back and forth. Big up days, big down days. Buyers and sellers are smacking each other in the face. I do think it will eventually work its way higher over time. We are sitting above support at $3.80. And I do think it'll work its way on up and make new all-time highs when copper squeezes the heck up. We've got lumber. Lumber is slightly lower, down 0.56%. We are above support. Generally, what happens is you kind of work your way out, and then you break on higher. So this is a reversal kind of basing pattern that's happening, and then I think eventually we'll see it move on up. Another thing that you do see, and I do think this could be a accumulation type pattern, is you get kind of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a big move up, and then you get an accumulation, and then you go. This is the Livermore cylinder. The way I recognize that is the pattern before it breaks, and this doesn't mean it happens immediately, okay? I always see these little humps like that right before a big move. So this could be lining up eventually for a big move in lumber. I don't want to say it's going to happen in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'm just saying these usually line up. They usually get some sort of basing out, and then it goes. Looking at iron ore is heading on higher. It's at 126, so we're actually, about where it's at. So that's looking good for iron ore. Nickel slightly lower, but I still am very positive on nickel. I think that we're just going to do a retest here eventually. Aluminum up slightly higher today, 2.4%, looking good to move on up. On the big long-term, big picture view, that's what I invest for. Big, long, big picture views. I buy it, I hold on, and I do nothing. And I let the markets, deficits, and all these things play out. That's how you make the money. You identify the conditions that they're short. You identify the inflation in the system. You buy it when it's undervalued and cheap, which is the ratios, and then you hold on. Baltic Dry Index also, we got the false breakout and the move higher. This is going to work its way on up. I am locked and loaded in the dry bulk shipping companies and the ones that are my favorite. Newcastle Coal slightly sideways. I do think this is going to be a good opportunity here when this thing does turn around. I'm looking at it, watching it. We do have one of the companies that we're in. It just absolutely destroyed earnings today. It was up 7-8% or something like that, 7 or 8%. But that's looking really good, and it's paying a special dividend of 4 or 5%. So that's good. And then Ethereum slightly lower today, but that is a bloody nose, which is generally a continuation pattern to the upside. That is also happening in Bitcoin. So they both look very good. Now, keep in mind, this double hump, I usually see that before a launch to the upside. That happened last time. I'll show you where the other double hump is, guys. We're getting our humps on. The other double hump is this guy right here. And that could be what I'm seeing, and it might not be, but I've seen it before, these little double humps, and then they bust and go. But that's what I've got for today, guys. Everything's looking pretty good. I mean, the overall markets look really strong. S&P, NASDAQ, agriculture companies look strong. The oil, exploration, production, and energy service companies look strong. Looks pretty strong across the board, guys. We could see some move higher here. So, I don't get too excited over all this. I kind of just act like a robot. You buy stuff when it's down. You buy the patterns, and then the momentum breaks up, and you just ride it on higher. And if we have to consolidate again, I'd ride through the consolidation, and then I just ride it on up again. And if the consolidation pulls on back, I buy more where I think it's a good support level and the pattern's about to break, and I just continue to keep riding it higher. But that's all I've got for today, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you'd like. I got a lot of really good companies going on and really cheap companies that are hopefully going to play out very well over this next 2023 year. So that's what I've got for today. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.